Today, I will be talking about the precise depth, the clarity of communication, and how engrossing it was as my friend Bala Kumble, explained to me Advaith, or the philosophy of non-dualism, which is the seminal and underlying philosophy of Sanatan Dharma. It is the oldest religion in the world, and anywhere between 15 to 20% of the world population, that is the Hindus, are followers of Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means infinite, which has no beginning and no end. And Dharma means way of life or the virtuous path. Explaining what is Advaith, Bala told me, Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma has to be practiced and taught to others by living in a family, community, and the societal setting. Sanatan Dharma and family life are not independent of each other. To understand Advaith better, let's look closely at theoretical physics and metaphysical aspects of life. Let's also try to understand Maya, the concept of the observer's time and space coordinates. This is completely aligned with quantum physics, the geo and time coordinates, and in subject and object interaction. That is the observer and the observed. Let's understand how the result and the view vary depending on the time-space coordinates of each other. Further, all living and non-living things are from the same energy source, the Brahm, the infinity. Our perspective view is based on where we are in time and space, and that is the Maya illusion. On Advaita Vedanta, or philosophy of non-dualism, Bala said, when Buddhism became a prominent force in India, as Buddha said, after death one attains nirvana. When there is nothing, there is zero. This made the society chaotic and unruly. Buddha also said that nirvana is attained by renunciation, or by abandoning or giving up the drudgery of day-to-day life. Now this was a dangerous trend. As Buddhism grew and spread, the society was bound to decline. Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya at that time came out and said that the ultimate is not nirvana or zero, but Brahma or infinity is the ultimate. And to achieve this, everyone has to live in society and gain knowledge and provide knowledge to others to attain the ultimate Brahma, the infinity. Bala explained that Vedanta is one of the 6 systems of Hindu philosophy and Sanatan Dharma. Advaita Vedanta, that is non-duality or non-dualism, is one of the schools of Vedanta. Vishishta Vedanta, the school of qualified non-dualism, and Advaith Vedanta, the school of dualism, are the other schools of Vedanta. Vedanta literally means Ved, which are 4 in numbers, Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Samved, and Atharved, and then the Ant or the Upanishads. They provide the conclusion or the pinnacle of knowledge. Vedanta is the way of life, more specifically, spiritual life. Bala went on to explain Advaita Vedanta and said, here the Brahma goes beyond the God or the Creator. I am the universe. The universe resides within me is the ultimate truth. It means all the gods, all the demons, all places, all times, and everything that exists. Brahma is all-inclusive and includes I, you, and them. Focusing on the main teachings of Advaita Vedanta, Bala said, Advaita symbolizes the highest point of a spiritual manifestation that one can attain. Vedanta is the solution to the problem of human suffering. To be precise, suffering arises as a reaction to physical or emotional pain. Atman is the true self, he understood and explained by saying, the Atma or Atman, that is the individual consciousness that is inside you, is the true source of happiness. Citing Adi Shankaracharya, he said, Atma is your true nature that makes you complete. This inner reality is usually shielded by the components like people, events, and things of the outer world. Here, the outer mask covers the godly reality hidden within you. The desires we possess and try vigorously to fulfill, will they give you contentment? Not exactly. The more desires we fulfill, the more we get tired. So the true source of happiness lies within you. Therefore, there is no reality beyond the self, and this self can be realized through the teachings of Advaith Vedanta. Further, Bala said, Satchidanand or Sat, Chit and Anand is the true nature of Atman or self. Sat is the knowingness of the consciousness, the desire to know, the ability to know, and you already know. Chit is the aliveness, the pran in you. The intensity of life is experienced based on Chit. And Anand is the pleasantness and bliss that exists within the Atma or the self. The purpose of activities in our life, they might be different. Sometimes to lift Sat, sometimes to lift Chit, and sometimes to lift Anand. And Satchitanand is the essence of your being. Bala also talked of Drigdrish and Vivek, distinguishing the seer or the observer from what is seen or the subject is one of the difficulties in Advaita. To get out of this complex situation is the ability and the nature of the self. As the sun doesn't get affected in any way, no matter whosoever it shines upon. Likewise, the consciousness that throws light upon the activities of the mind does not truly affect the activities of vritti that it illumines. The misinterpretation of the experience of happiness or sadness that arises in our mind is the obstacle to the self. Bala underscored the vrittis, that is the perceptions, cognitions and emotions that arise in your mind, they don't truly affect the true self according to the philosophy of Advaith Vedanta. Then he also talked of avidya and maya. Now, what is the hindrance behind the attainment of self? He asked and said, Adi Shankaracharya beautifully explains it through ignorance and maya. Ignorance is giving importance to the outer world and avoiding the inner world that is your Atma. When a person starts giving more attention to people, situations and things, he forgets his true nature and gets stuck in the vicious cycle of ignorance. By asserting that Adi Shankara gave the concept of Maya, or call it illusion, Bala explained how the view of an observer depends on the space-time coordinates of both the observer and the observed. This is completely in line with quantum physics of time-space and time and space travel. In a recent hypothesis of quantum-based time travel, time has to be included as another coordinate of the three space dimensions. The way one can go back and forth in space, one can also go back and forth in time. The scientists have said that to understand this concept, one has to overlay or borrow the philosophical hypothesis. And that would mean that even if one is able to travel in time back and forth, one will not be able to change any past events. Time and space travel is like a book. One can only read any page, any time. The story, content cannot be changed. Now take a close look at the concept of karma. When we say all is set in concrete, nothing can be changed, then the only way to influence the future events is by acting now. This fits in with the concept of Advaita, which deals with Maya and the attainment of infinity, that is Brahma or Parabrahma. Bala said, Maya is the thought process which makes the individual stick with the I-ness, the feeling of me, my family, my friends, my life, my objects, and these kinds of material thoughts create an illusion in the mind in the attainment of self. Thus, to avoid getting caught in the cycle of Maya, one pointed attention to the inner environment. The Atma is the only solution. Hence the importance of meditation to understand self. To conclude, the philosophy of Advaith Vedanta, The wisdom that has been passed on by different teachers and philosophers like the Gaudapada and the Shankaracharya and other seers and saints revolves around the only truth, that is Brahma. Advaita is considered to be the most profound teachings among all schools of thought. The consciousness remains untouched by any kind of suffering or the worldly misery. Trying to determine the difference between pain and suffering is one small step towards Advaita Vedanta. Starting with the Jagrat Avastha, waking state, the Swapna Avastha, the dreaming state, Sushupti Avastha, the sleep state, and finally overcoming all the three states and reaching to Turiya Avastha, that is the deep meditative state, is the essence of who you are. Therefore, Advaita Vedanta is all about Jivatma, the individual consciousness. It is no different from Paramatma, the collective consciousness. Advaita, Sanatan Dharma, Hinduism, not a religion in the same line as other religions. It is a hypothesis. It is hypothesis based on analysis. Now, suppose you work in a company and your job is to build and execute innovation, research and development. Your first step is to develop a hypothesis based on the known and the unknown. This is universally accepted as a scientific principle. Quantum physics, which is aligned with Advaita, has similar hypothesis. This is completely aligned with quantum physics, the geo and time coordinates, and in subject and object interaction, observer and the observed. The result and the view, they vary depending on the time-space coordinates of each other. Further, all living and non-living things are from the same energy source, the Brahma, the infinity. Our perspective or view is based on where we are in time and space, and that is Maya or illusion. We have a role to play based on knowledge, both individual and collective. The goal should be to fully attain knowledge, elevate oneself and the community to a higher plane of knowledge, to attain infinity and be one with nature, that is Brahma, from which we are all born, both living and non-living. We have come a long distance from the days of Adi Shankar. The modern day sannyasis must proactively articulate the hypothesis, the philosophy, the concepts of Advaita to the younger generation. Just the ritual puja, Mangala Arati, they do not reflect the original philosophy of Sanatan Dharma. Let me introduce Dr. Bala Kumble. He is Director of the Global Knowledge Alliance and is the Managing Director of Innova Sierra. It is an Australian industry specializing in R&D advice, management and product development. Dr. Kumble's company specializes in innovation in biotechnology, bioinformatics and next generation sequencing, biometrics and emotion detection, telecommunications, mining and industrial automation and smart grid initiatives. Dr. Kumble, who was awarded the IEEE Millennium Award Medal for outstanding contributions, is based in Melbourne, Australia. Namaskar. Dhanyavad.